Well, we had time and we had the team in place, so we started flipping. And we flipped a few houses. We made up money, but we did everything wrong because we didn't educate ourselves, but we did everything wrong. We still made some money, I think, and also we ended up paying all that money in taxes. So I started looking for something where we can taxes, because I always heard that real estate is something about saving taxes and we end up paying more taxes. So I started researching, and then I came through some articles and some other educations that multifamily is the way to go, so that you can save money on taxes. And we moved on to multifamily immediately. We bought 7 more houses from his son, and we did all that creative financing and all that in those, buying those houses too. We didn't put any penny from our pocket, and we just bought those 7 houses from his son. And so it became 40 altogether. And we immediately moved to multifamily. We started looking at like 50, 60 units, 70 units in that kind of range. And we did offer the bids on 4 properties, and every time we got outbidded. And then I realized that we were doing something wrong, because we started buying the same way we bought the houses. And multifamily is a complex, much complex business than the single family. So I realized after giving 4 LOIs that we were doing something wrong. And then I started researching and found this syndication. So before I started learning much about syndication, I started finding syndicators and followed some syndicators and went on bigger pockets to learn about syndicators. And then I followed some syndicators and I invested in one deal to learn. So I invested $50,000 in one deal in Dayton, Ohio, without much knowledge and just to get started. And we met with this syndicator also and asked some questions. But once we got into the syndication business with the investment in one property, I started researching more, and I attended some boot camps, and I learned a lot, read more books, listened to a lot of podcasts. I think every multifamily podcast that I listen, I still listen. Every day I listen at least one podcast daily. So I learned a lot in short time, and I invested in 6 more properties. So the first year we invested in 2, and then the next year, means 2018, we invested in 5, and we gave offers on 4 properties.
Nice. Nice. So, that first syndication deal, where you invested to learn, to really learn more about the business. And what are some big takeaways that you learned, as investing as a passive investor on that first deal?
First of all, I made my criteria after the first deal. It wasn't before that. When I started, I just invested. I met that syndicator. I went to that property. I met the property management, and I saw that it was in a good location, good property. I invested $50,000 and started learning. And then after that, reading some books and learning about the syndication business, I made a criteria, which I have here. And I followed strictly that criteria and found some other syndicators, because I wanted to diversify. I didn't want to just invest with the one syndicator. So I followed some other syndicators and found that they had properties. They have done a good job, and I joined some online groups and talked about there, and networked with some people who had invested or taken coaching from them. So I started learning about them and following that, and then slowly I started investing. And this year we invested in 5 more apartment complexes.